Yeah.
Financial rails, that tends to be
Okay.
And what that kind of means is, integration into more of the finance or more of the blockchain finance world as well. Number one being wrap tokens and pegging and on-chain swapping and pools. We run some of the oracles that are constantly, phoning home what's the price of Bitcoin. Therefore, when you do an on-chain swap, it's real time. That's what the current price is for. So ultimately, some people may know it now with Russia and everything. They're probably more informed what the SWIFT network is and the way financial transactions and money actually do get moved around. All you've got to do is go through your proper regulations, and that eventually we will be able to say, send this to my bank or do it on chain, right? And it convert it, swap it have a trusted SWIFT financial rail network, and boom, into your bank account.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Distributed Show. I've got a guy I actually talked to last week. He forgot to bring his stogie today, but we had a great conversation last week about some back-end stuff in regards to the Proton blockchain, and we will talk about the Proton blockchain. But Michael from EOSUSA is bigger. His organization is bigger than just Proton, even bigger than EOSIO blockchains. I didn't know that until last week, actually. So that maybe we'll touch on that as well. Let me bring in Michael really quickly. How you doing today?
Living the dream.
You got a fancy little background you got going on.
Yeah, those are the servers. Those are the real picture of the servers that run a lot of the EOSO chains. So Proton and EOS and Wax and TELOS and all of them, baby.
Yeah, so thank you for taking some time out to come on the show today. What we're trying to do with this podcast is just bring more awareness to behind the scenes, right? Everyone's all excited and always interested in the glitz and glamours of, I can turn $1,000 into $100,000 or $1 million.
$500,000 ETH rocks, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they very seldomly do they appreciate or even know about what's going on behind the scenes to actually make these blockchains that they use on a regular basis work and be secure, right? So again, thank you for coming on, Michael. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. How did you get into cryptos and the blockchain space in general?
Yeah. So we've been, I don't know, I'd say it's been my full-time job working for a blockchain company for about 5 years now. And of course, been involved. I hadn't been here since the very beginning, since Satoshi. But early on, we started getting exposed to blockchain when in our managed service IT role, we had a company, that managed service IT. A lot of the ransomware started kicking in and asking for Bitcoin. And it was like, well, what's this nerd money that they're asking for? And that's when we really, started getting exposed to, this is kind of a cool concept, and the whole concept of mining and decentralized validation. So, and that wasn't myself, that was some of my business partners, that I work with. And then slowly, we started getting involved and started running rooms and rooms of, ETH rigs and graphics cards. And I myself am a hardware junkie from back in the day when you used to build computers. So it kind of worked naturally to get more involved, and I was managing the hardware of the fleets and stuff. And so actually, as a business, we formed a blockchain company called Trace Blockchain. And this is all we do is blockchain. So it started off with mining ETH and GPU rigs, but very quickly, kind of scaled industrially to ASICs and running, the amp miners and things. And we have a big 40,000 square foot warehouse here in Greenville, South Carolina that we started working with and ran some of the first iterations of it. And then actually started getting newer, faster, more powerful miners and working with the different distributors, but also advancing, from the industrial side. Instead of air mining, we actually liquid cool them. So we have this big, massive liquid cooled, it's, 700 tons per line, like 2 megawatts each.
Yeah, that was really neat. You showed me that last week. You took the laptop out to the back warehouse and then outside and showed me the big tank that you guys keep the water in and explain how you cool the water down. I thought that was a very interesting technique.
Yeah, so if anybody's familiar with general water cooling, even like in your CPU, if you're a gamer or whatever, the idea is from the physics side, water can move more heat than air can. So that's why water cooling is more effective. So we just took that to a big, massive industrial scale. So instead of it being a little bitty system inside of a computer case that's, cooling down and running fans and trying to disperse the heat, we have big, massive vats of, I don't know, some of the regular vats are 30 miners, some of what we call the super vats are 64 miners, but lots and lots of these miners in what's called dielectric fluid, which is similar to what they put in power transformers and stuff like that. It's used for cooling and doesn't conduct electricity, but it's basically water. 1,200 times more denser than air, just doesn't conduct electricity. Long story short, you're flowing all this fluid through instead of air. And then we have just a typical, heat distribution. It runs through like a radiator in your car. It's just all this warm fluids flowing through these radiators. And then we have water that's coming by, and these big, massive, what's called cooling towers out back. That's how you cool hundreds and hundreds of tons of heat. And ironically, the end product we produce is clouds, because we're producing a lot of heat and it's coming out through the water. And so on the right conditions, you'll look out there and we're just spewing, pure steam. It's just pure water, but all that heat's exhausting off and going out. But a simple water cooling process in the scheme of physics, just on a massive industrial scale. And that's one from the blockchain. The blockchain company, we're not running them out of our garage. We're invested in doing it, the most efficient way, right? It's obviously the end game is you make more money if you do it more efficiently. But most people don't even realize, it's evolving way farther than, the evil Bitcoin miners that are just pulling all this massive power and not caring. We actually have a division of one of our companies that is utilizing that heating technology in unique ways, because, the traditional way of heating big spaces may be take power, run it through a heater coil and blow the hot air out, right? Well, liquid cooling can be a little more efficient at, handling it and managing it. If you pull 10 times the power that you need, the power company can give you better rates. You can also be a smart grid. You'd be like, hey, whenever it's the hot time of the month, we'll be happy to turn things off for 10 minutes or whatever. So,
and you can send that overflow back to the electrical companies, right, as well, right?
Well, two different things. One, that's like,
okay.
Like a solar backfeed or whatever. The smart grid is more, during peak times, they realize, oh, crap, guys, we're at 90%. We need, if everybody would just turn off their refrigerator for 5 minutes in a rolling pattern, we'd be perfectly fine. That's the idea of a smart grid, or turn off the air conditioner for a few minutes. But you don't really go to a mall and say, hey, can you turn off your air conditioner for 5 minutes, right?
Right.
They can, but it's very difficult to have a system like that. But when you're dealing with high-end, electronics and 21st century technology, those are the types of competitive edges. And we're not the big, bad, evil power grinders anymore. Guess what? They were going to grind that power anyway. What we do is more efficiently and make it not so expensive for them. So anyway, those are just unique evolutions that blockchain companies are doing. We're not just trying to find stranded power and crank it up. We all are, but there's actually innovation and uniqueness kind of happening. And that's actually one of the other divisions that we call that the proof of work division. I focus more on the proof of stake, DPoS.
Yeah, so that's a great segue, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you about. And again, when I met with you last week, I was unaware of your proof of work operation. It's huge and needs to be.
That's why we're able to kind of speculate and get these newer chains going. On EOS, we were in the unpaid position and doing stuff for free for years. And it was like, look, we believe, I can. Why? You didn't realize that Bitcoin was actually paying the light bills or buying the servers. But
right.
I see
this guy Michael. I go into one room, I see him chatting away. I go into the TELOS room, he's in there. I go into the EOS room, he's in there. Explain to us all of the blockchains that you guys block produce for and help secure, because that's very interesting.
Well, and like I say, some of these have come and gone. I probably need to update some of the lists. Some have added, some have dropped. But ultimately, we kind of got started with EOS and became familiar really with the EOSio technology. Of course, it's a great stack, and really started seeing other projects that, maybe take it, embrace it, tweak it for its own. because we're in the opportunity that we're in, number one, I don't rent servers, so I don't have to pay Amazon every month. I mean, I've got them running. We've got our own building. Because the Bitcoin miners are going to be running anyway, that's why I had the redundant internet and all that stuff to start with. So what we were able to do is we were able to commit and roll the dice on a lot less, established projects. So we ran them all, right? It was just known, hey, if you want somebody to run some of your nodes, call EOSUSA. They'll be happy to spin them up and learn some lessons. It was interesting to see ways some people did it. Some people succeeded, some people failed, but always there to try to support. And hey, if you win, we win, right? So really, we ran all the chains that we possibly could, all the layer 2 solutions. That's really where we're finding a lot of our sweet spot is blockchain does its thing, but to really use it, you need APIs, you need history solutions, you need, servers to be able to run your code and backend services. So, but anyway, we try to be involved with every project that might have, a unique use case. I mean, sure, what can we do to help provide that? I mean, we're not funding them, but I can throw some hardware at it and
right.
EOSio expertise. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I can tell you, we broke that over on this other chain.
So what attracted you guys, your group, to even exploring the EOSIO? Well, EOS, of course, being the first iteration of the EOSIO. What was even intriguing to you guys to say, hey, I want to jump on this?
Best way I describe it, at least in my head, of course I can't speak for everybody, but we kind of look at it as EOSIO is kind of like the third version of blockchain, or the third evolution. Call Bitcoin the first, right? Hey, this is decentralized network that's trustless, that everybody can transfer value and rely on it, but doesn't really do smart contracts, at least in its native form, things like that. But great idea, great starting point, right? Then Ethereum came out and was like, hey, that's a great idea, still based off of proof of work and stuff like that and decentralization, but let's make it more intelligent. Let's put smart contracts in there. Let's, when you pay somebody $1, make it automatically do the revenue distribution, right? Smart contract. But I mean, it's expensive. It's really hard to use that in like a repetitious, game style manner. Oh, you want to do quests over and over and have your assets and swords and everything like that, man, every time you go and whack one of the bosses, you got to pay $30, and wait 2 minutes for finality to come back through on the block. We need to get a little bit better than that, right? And so that's kind of when EOSio, and with that 2018, 17, 18, whatever it was you were really starting to see the third generation of blockchains come out. A lot of the ICOs, which some were good, some were bad, but okay, let's take ETH to the next level, and let's cut the finality, or at least let's cut the block time to half a second. Finality may still be 2 minutes, but it allowed you to do things and pretty easily see it on chain pretty quickly and develop more interactive applications, either projects and or games and or whatever. 2 minutes, 12 minutes, for blockchain or a Bitcoin, it's really hard when you got to wait hours, So that's
right.
really what kind of brought us to, and of course the DPoS model, really like the idea of, yeah, that's great that you have $1 million and you can run a server. That, okay, I guess I trust you, but it's an interesting concept to say, no, the token holders have that say and control. I mean, it works out for the good and bad on both sides, I guess. But that was an interesting. The resource model was unique. What a paper transaction, you could own an allocation of the chain's resources. I mean, there's some good ideas. Needs a little tweaking and polishing over the years, but
of course, like everything, right? Nothing comes out the gate perfect, and it takes human ingenuity and perseverance and just collaboration to make it work, right? And you'll probably
and the nerds
never
that
get
are in
there.
the back end saying, "Sure, I'll do it. Why not?" Right? I mean, so I say, you write it, I'll run it, because I mean, there's a lot of people that are trying to run, make ideas, but they may not have the nodes, they may not have the expertise or the time. Let me help you with that, right? I want you to succeed. I want you to be the next Angry Birds. I want you to be the next Wordle or whatever, right?
Yeah. So, what would you like if we have someone out there watching that is possibly already in the business of mining on a proof of work blockchain like Bitcoin, or even some other proof of stake or other consensus model that's out there, what would be your suggestion to them as far as possibly moving over to EOSIO or delegated proof of stake blockchains in general? Pros and cons
yeah.
for us.
Like I say, because we have a lot of we do a lot of consulting with other Bitcoin miners, because we're one of the few that do liquid cooled and stuff. So we've got a lot of POW contacts that come through here, and of course it's unique to also have this whole other division and be as immersed into it as we are. And so I'm constantly trying to explain at least my opinion. I mean, and I had a Bloomberg article a couple of months ago that was talking about some of the differences between DeFi and GameFi, and where we're going with the space is that it's great to have this decentralized value transfer, and even replacing some of the traditional monetary, lend money, earn interest, things like that. But number one, there's only so many different things you can do with it, and number two, you're going against one of the most heavily regulated and cronyized industries in the world. But what's an even, I think, better use case of blockchain is like games or some of these projects that it's the asset. It's not that it's a value, but understand that blockchain is great for asset tracking. And once you can kind of overcome this, well, it's $1. Now it's an asset. It's worth $1, right? Or, I try to explain night vision goggles in like Call of Duty, or power-ups in, Candy Crush or whatever, and try to open their eyes to, it's like being in the 1990s and saying, hey, this internet is really cool. What the hell are we going to do with it? Nobody had a clue what we were going to be in 2000 or 2020 or 2022, right? Even Bill Gates was like, yeah, that's not that big of a thing, right? But people started taking the technology and saying, hey, maybe I can build a store on this, right? Boom, Amazon in their books. And then, of course, now it's Amazon. Or PayPal, or eBay, which, kind of led to PayPal, which was, hey, an online auction store. How the hell are people going to pay? We need to develop this feature, and so they started thinking outside of the box and what else the technology can do. That's what I try to and I blow people's mind, right? Because I mean, if you understand proof of work and Bitcoin, even to begin with, you're probably at
there are limitations, right?
But then I come in and I'm like, yeah, forget all that. That's so kindergarten, right? This is really where the potential is. And like I say, in the Bloomberg, my thing was, every day you go into the Play Store or whatever, you see a new game or a new whatever, right? And remember, at one time, Farmville was a brand new game that somebody created. Angry Birds was a brand new game somebody created. Words with Friends, Candy Crush.
So just imagine those games and their popularity, but adding in the play to earn aspect to it, and now you have a whole new economy.
Exactly. And that's what I try to explain. Is that like my mom will play Candy Crush? Why? Because it's an entertainment expense. She gets to disconnect from the world. She could just kind of whatever, right? It keeps her entertained, but she's getting nothing out of it other than entertainment, and that's cool for her. But most adults, and my mom included, refuse to buy any power-ups or anything. You want to spend $1? Now just start over, right? But there are people that do, I really wish I had those 5 extra moves, right? What if you were really good at it and you kept earning all these power-ups that you didn't use, right? This is closing that economy of saying, you have the power-ups that you don't want. They need the power-ups and are willing to pay something for it. Why don't you be able to extract that value? And like I say, about half of them will click on, all right, I'm not a gamer. I'm never going to pay any money for anything in a game, but I can kind of see that. Or if they've got kids, that's why I lean over and I'm like, how much money have you spent this year from your son asking you for $5 in a game? And he's like, hundreds of dollars. All right, somebody's paying for that value, right? What if you're on the receiving end because you don't want to pay, but you have value of your time that can be extracted back out? And grasping that concept of, let's take the internet and do more with it, right? And now it's, let's take blockchain and do more with it. Let's say you can own your assets, and let's get these smart people that are sitting in their basement and like, I got a great idea, but I don't really know how to do it. Hey, EOSUSA will help you do it. They'll help you with the hardware side, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, it's
anyway, I
funny.
think that
It's
maybe
funny you
answers the
mentioned
question.
the whole kids and how much they spend because, ironically enough, my 10-year-old daughter, I introduced her to the concept of play to earn and Ethereum. So
Yeah.
she's like getting her MetaMask wallet and writing down her 12 phrase
Right. Yeah.
keyword, mnemonic keyword or whatever. And it's just interesting because I was explaining to her, I'm like, look, you're hitting my wallet every week for a new, I don't know, V-Bucks or something for a call.
Right.
I don't know what games you,
Roblox.
Roblox and
Yep. Yep.
Fortnite, right?
Hmm.
And she's hitting me and hitting me. I'm just like, well, there's a world out there where you can actually make money having
Correct.
fun. And her
Or
eyes lit up.
extract the value. Correct. And then
Right.
what is that
Extract
value?
the
Is it
value.
money? And this is what I try to explain to people. Is it money that you put in? Okay, you bought that sword. Well, you may get 80% of it back out and you're thrilled with it, right? I mean, 0% is what you're getting right now, right? So the general concept of being able to, you know, own the asset and then extract the value back out of it, even if you paid for it, or I grind a game, and I was a big Diablo player way back in the day, right? Making my
Classic.
age or whatever. And, as it evolved, and of course, I don't know, I wasn't World of Warcraft, but a lot of those, MMORPG, whatever they all are, even 20 years ago, people were realizing, look, owning these assets in this game has a value. These games did not give any mechanisms to exchange or extract that value.
Right.
But surprise, people have been doing that for a long time. You could go on eBay, you could buy their account, take over it. They figured out ways, and people made lots and lots of money of connecting to a game, grinding up this experience or weapons or whatever, and then somebody else coming in didn't want to spend 6 months to do it, but really wanted to come in and dominate. And yeah, I'll spend $20 worth of mommy's money. And of course, they're like, you're going to pay me $20 for an account that I played for the last month? Sure, here you go. There just was never a mechanism to do it. So that it's been there forever. It's been against terms of service. What this does is give you the framework and really even marry them all together. You will never see a Sony game exchanging assets and going able to buy a Zynga power-up.
Right.
They're just two different ecosystems. They'll never compete, But when you're on a blockchain, you go to a DEX, there's somebody that's looking for those coins that you're looking to unload that you have a lot of that you earned, and you can take that value and then buy an asset or something from another game. So anyway, the whole point of it is that's one use case. It's kind of like saying, well, Amazon's a great use case of the internet. Yeah, it really is, but it wasn't the only one. And it took a long time to get there. It wasn't where we started. But a couple of people had some good ideas, and took it to the next level. So that's what I try to explain to people is keep doing what you're doing. It's crazy. It's fun, right? Megawatts and megawatts of power and all this, but there's more. It's not just the Department of Defense computers making sure nukes aren't flying. We're playing games. We're buying stuff. Our world exists more in a digital world now than it does in a physical world. They say you have like 60 or 70 real world contacts, maximum, right? Just who you interact with in the world every day on a regular basis. So it's only, several dozen. Think about it, it's not that, whatever. But 5,000 people see your Facebook profile every day. As a matter of fact, Facebook may be slamming them in the face with it. You're in the algorithm.
Right.
You're in the algorithm.
Right.
So that's who people think you are. That's way more people think you are that person in your online persona and the internet. Like I say, we've evolved into this digital form, and now this is part of that same thing. Now your digital can own digital assets and exist in a digital world. You can have a VR shirt that your buddy can look at you through their phone and be like, oh, that's some sick threads. Whatever.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. It's definitely getting crazy. So we've kind of gone from, and we in this conversation we've talked
I'm
about
all over the place.
No, it's fine. We talked about Bitcoin kind of being that blockchain 1.0. Everyone's talking about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. Well, we can even make that same parallel with the blockchains. Bitcoin being B1, and you have like B2 being Ethereum, right? The smart contract chains. and to me, and you can help me understand, will be the EOSIO type of chains.
Right. Or addressing a lot of the shortcomings, the speed, obviously,
The speed, right?
onboarding, Wax, I think was, why EOS struggled a lot was the onboarding, and then Wax came out with the Wax Cloud Wallet, which, it's custodial and whatnot, but it streamlined that onboard experience.
It absolutely do. I
More.
hate that they've taken away the free. I knew it had to happen, but that
can't have anything without getting somebody's got to ruin it for everybody. But I mean, that was key, and I think it still is. I mean, and even EOSio in general. Okay, it's got to be 12 characters, AZ 1 through 5. You know what? It's not 0x539 crap. What?
Exactly.
So it's better, but then you get like the
there.
Proton. You remember, and Proton was a big thing about. I remember Fred would always say, "I want at Fred."
Yep.
It doesn't need to be Fred. It needs to be Fred. And I'm at Michael, and whatever. But that's some of those next evolutions is that, okay, let's take it and tweak it a little bit more. Yeah, that didn't work as well. Yeah, maybe we can try it a little differently. But, just like on Bitcoin, it still has its use cases. It obviously got us to where we are. But, yeah, like I say, the UX, the onboarding, that's got a long way to come. I mean, and even just all the different chains. We were talking about that earlier, MetaMask and Anchor and all these different ones, right? That's still a very, very complicated, private keys, all this and the other. And then, like I say, just the actual technology. I mean, with EOSIO, we have the throughput of 10,000 TPSs. I mean, we can do a lot of transactions, but as some of the layer 2 solutions can start to. Okay, that's cool. The chain did it, but now I got to read it and index it. Ooh, and those are catching up and developing and moving along. And even like EOSio, I was talking to Gnome over at Titan, and they're talking about some faster finality. Half-second block time's great. 2-minute finality is better than nothing, but still pretty tough. You do an IBC and moving assets, you've got minutes just for everybody to be like, yeah, I think I'm cool with keeping that on chain.
Right.
And so that'll.
And so I know there were some talks about, prior to this whole shakeup with EOS and everything, them doing an update that would reduce the finality to, I think, 1 minute or 2. It was like 1 minute or half a second. What was it?
I don't remember. There's been a couple of Boz at one time. One of the EOSIO chains had it down to like a 3-second. They had the 3-second live. It was pretty heavy on top of it, but I mean they accomplished it. And it was a use case. You could use that as a middle hub and not waste minutes, bouncing in between.
Right.
The big thing on that is that EOS and the ENF and the working groups, they're really starting to bring in all the smart folks that are related to, well, you use it. What do you think?
Right.
And kind of getting a bearing and starting to take proposals about, all right, we all agree it'd be great if it was faster. How do you think we should do that? And what are the pros and cons? So I'm excited that, after many years, we're kind of reinvigorating the marching path forward for EOSIO, get the whole ENF and the foundation of the 4 main, and then of course there's all sorts of other chains that are there as well. But
you touched on Proton, Proton being one of the EOSIO chains. Tell us about that. A lot of people don't know about Proton at all. You talked about the co-founder saying, "Hey, I just want to @Fred address. That's all I want."
Right. We've been involved with that project for a long time, actually. Anybody maybe familiar with the EOS space would remember the Lynx wallet.
I do.
That was actually the crew that kind of morphed into all of this.
And Metal, right? They kind of joined with Metal.
So there was the Proton Link side, or the Link side of it, and then Metal Pay, and they were kind of on the east side, and out in the normal blockchain world, we'll call it, not the EOSIO world. And then ultimately, Lynx had the idea of trying to tweak and fix EOS issues, onboarding and needing to pay for accounts and the resource model and different things like that. I think that's Fred right there, Fred and Marshall. But anyway, so fixing some of the issues that we started realizing on there you go, universal @ names and stuff. But fixing some of the things we saw on EOS that may have been some of the hang up, shortened friendly names, resource models that are more easy, to understand, even on-chain swaps and peggings and some of that aspect of it. And so they launched Links Chain to begin with, and then through some of that evolution and development, ended up discussing with Marshall and the Metal Pay, Metallicus, and all that. And that was really where kind of the combination of the two came in, is Metallicus and the financial rails and some of those aspects of things that, great evolution of blockchain, maybe even blockchain banking type of thing, Swift network type of communications, and the ease and power of EOSio technology that Links had already kind of started tweaking with, friendly names and different resource models. So that was actually kind of how Proton ultimately got formed, was Links Chain and Metal Pay and their tokens kind of airdropped in and dissolved the respective individuals. And then ultimately now there's this Proton chain, which is EOSio based, 21 active block producers. It's DPoS, so the governing tokens, the tokens do allow you to vote in the active producers that you would like to see. Has a lot of on-chain oracles and swapping, like pegged USDC, BTC, ETH. You can send somebody some BTC on EOSio technology, which is cheap, and then ultimately unwrap it whenever it gets to its final destination. So those types of things, and then advancing forward on KYC being integrated, which then also allows some additional financial features and things like that, as well as the normal blockchain stuff like NFTs and collections and functionality on that. So another interesting use case of EOSio technology.
Yeah. In maybe one sentence, could you kind of explain to the audience the one thing that this blockchain is trying to do? And TELOS is more like governance.
Governance, correct.
Focus,
that's what I always
right?
try to say. What is the chain? What's their thing, right? They can all do it all, but financial rails, that tends to be, and what that kind of means is, integration into more of the finance or more of the blockchain finance world as well. Number one being wrap tokens and pegging and on-chain swapping and pools. We run some of the oracles that are constantly, phoning home what's the price of Bitcoin. Therefore, when you do an on-chain swap, it's real time. That's what the current price is for. So those types of services that are built into the chain, it also allows payment mechanisms to be able to be integrated. You can almost get paid in any token and liquidate out to any chain, but as well as starting to try to be more integrated. And of course, that's dealing with the legislation. This is more than one sentence, isn't it? But
no, it's all good. No, this is great.
Hey, the one sentence is financial rails, but that's 2 words, but you need a little explanation, right? But ultimately, some people may know it now with Russia and everything. They're probably more informed what the Swift network is and the way financial transactions and money actually do get moved around. All you've got to do is go through your proper regulations and rules, and hopefully, that eventually we will be able to say, send this to my bank or do it on chain, right? And it convert it, it swap it, it have a trusted Swift financial rail network, and boom, into your bank account. You also see those credit cards and stuff like that, but really trying to bridge more of the traditional financial mechanism and rails into blockchain, not replace it, coexist and integrate with it. And eventually the obsolete equipment may find its way out. Who knows?
The fiat on-ramp integration, is that something that's active on Proton right now?
It is. I think it was last week on the committee call that, like I say, I'm more just trying to keep the dumpster fires out. And, my role is to, onboard new BPs and make sure, they're up to snuff and not breaking the chain. But yeah, they had mentioned that some of the KYC, that's a big battle they've been fighting with is, global KYC and where it can be. And then now that it's progressed into being able to, the fiat on-ramps that, I forget they described exactly how it works, but, basic concept. money in and boop, 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 automatically, and poof, here you go.
Yeah. So, what would you, in a sentence, consider wax to be? I mean, I know, but maybe the audience
Isn't their
doesn't.
tagline "King of NFTs"?
Yeah,
I think that is their actual
that
tagline. That's
was
what I've
yeah.
always kind of said. I think that's a pretty true, accurate statement. I mean, um, focused on NFTs. Obviously, they were the instigator behind Atomic. I think they were, Wax Labs funded it. Pink's always
Mm-hmm.
been, kind of a Wax crew. And, they were an
Mm-hmm.
ERC-20 ultimately. They were
Yeah.
original project and then embraced EOSio technology. But, they always said, NFTs and for the same reason I kind of say is that, the gaming, the collector, that's not the only use case for it, but it is a damn great one and is I think one of the keys that it's going to take to finally bridge over, right? I mean, it took an eBay for people to finally be like, oh yeah, I guess I can buy stuff on the internet, right? And I think that really helped. Of course, I do think, them have and identifying the onboarding experience problem, with Wax Cloud Wallet and doing that they were really able to focus on come, get an account for free, play a game, get some assets, have some fun, right? So that's what I tend to kind of relate Wax to. But of course, they could do all sorts of different things, right? I mean, and the more with EOSio we start to bridge everybody together, guess what? Do your own thing. Fine. Do financial rails on Proton and NFTs on Wax and governance on TELOS and
Right.
identity verification on or and FIO has the flattening of all the blockchains and invoicing and
I'm glad you say
selling of
FIO like
domains.
me. I say FIO too.
That's
everyone
a,
say, everyone
is it
says
EOS?
FIO.
Is
I
it
just
EOS? Is it FIO? Is it FIO? Is it
yeah. I'm a
I
FIO guy.
I'm a FIO guy, right? But I'm also country bunkin, so anything I pronounce probably is wrong anyway. But it's that redneck, right?
Oh
So,
man.
but anyway, I mean, I'm excited, and that's what I say is not all of them will succeed, but I mean, you got to try.
Yeah.
It's like you had pets.com, PetSmart, and I don't remember what the other one was. And, the one you thought to succeed, pets.com, wasn't the winner, right? It was
Mm-mm.
PetSmart or whatever.
What is
So,
pets.com right now today? I
oh,
wonder. I
I
never.
saw a documentary on it not too long ago, actually. I
No,
mean,
I'm
they're
saying I
just really
wonder what they pets.com. Typing it in the browser now, ladies and gentlemen.
it's
Let's
probably a
see.
typo squatter that now you're about to get some spyware that
Oh,
asks for some BitLocker.
PetSmart. Look at that.
PetSmart bought
PetSmart.
Pets.com. Oh, that's an
Yes.
ironic ending to that because
Yeah.
there were three of them that they were all competing, and
Yep.
Pets.com they had a talking dog or whatever, right? But
Yes.
anyway,
Yes.
the whole point is that was a great innovation is that pet owners are a great market. God, they will just spend on that, but even in a great idea with the shortest most customizable domain, they made the decision to start shipping shit for free, right? You're shipping a 60-pound bag of dog food for free, your business model is going to struggle. Guess what? PetSmart now owns pets.com. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
Crazy,
but
right?
what it was number one, some people had a good idea. Number two, competition started developing. You started having pets and PetSmart and all that and going after each other. And ultimately the winner won who used the technology and who became a staple in our life now, right? So like I say, I that's what I'm excited about, and try to help every project we can. Of course, anyone on EOSIO or any chain, we'd love
Yeah.
for to
So what do
come
you?
to another chain,
Yeah. So what? So do you do any back end infrastructural work for like Ethereum?
Uh, I actually have some Solidity programmers, although they're not doing Solidity. They just in a previous life had some Solidity and they understood blockchain and NFTs. And I was like, oh, you're hired, but you're working on this better technology. But
Right.
we do have dev shops. Most of our dev shops are EOSIO technology, either like in private chain, whole big ecosystems, utilizing public chains. Of course, like the front end developers and React and a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Hardware infrastructure provider, either servers to servers or blockchain nodes. And of course, any blockchain, ETH, BSC, even got a Bitcoin daemon if you really want it. But so we do a lot of that. We've actually kind of spun up a separate division that is kind of focusing on the professional services that
Mm-hmm.
so we've got our kind of blockchain and service provider validator type of side, because we also run other chains too. I mean, we've got some POS, Dash and E 2.0 if they want, and all these different ones, but they're not nearly as fun as some of this. But
Yeah, no doubt. And I always like to ask the guests, especially those who are actually in the EOSIO space, why do you think we haven't seen as much success with EOSIO? Of course, I would say maybe let's start with the granddaddy, right? EOS. I asked you to give me a one sentence description of the maybe you want to say the mission statement of each of those blockchains, and can you do that for EOS? It's kind of hard, right?
The mission
At this
statement is
point,
it was the grandfather, right? I mean, everything that all the other chains kind of get to piggyback on was its claim to, or is its claim to fame, right? What kind of has been the biggest detriment for them being the first? That obviously they learned the hardest lessons.
Yeah.
The onboarding experience, the resource
they're trying to work on.
Correct, and that's what I say. So early on, it was the ETH killer, right? Well, you can, but there are some subtle little things here and there. The onboarding experience was really tough. That I think really hurt. And then, it kind of went what I call comatose. I mean, it kind of went into the stalemate of, we can't make much progress. The innovators were kind of getting stifled out, and
Thanks,
other
B1.
chains were starting to, okay, we got some good ideas, and of course, that we were able to export the expertise across a lot of the chains. Hey, yeah. I know EOSIO, so I can help you and help you and help you, and we all benefit. But I mean, sadly, EOS had kind of gone into about 2 years worth of kind of a stalemate type of thing. It's it's doing. There's still support. There's a couple cool projects.
I just wonder if at this juncture, because there have been so many great sister chains, if you want to call them, to come out of the birth of EOS. I wonder if it's too late for them to really gain back market share. What are your thoughts?
Really, like I say, and in my opinion, where EOS still has strength is it's the Bitcoin of our EOSIO, right? That's what Bitcoin is to crypto. It's the on-ramp. It's the dollar that everything trades into, right? EOS is by far the most widely accepted EOSIO token and liquidity and market cap and stuff like that. And so, embrace it still for what it is, right? But originally, EOSIO, at least in my mind, maybe I understood it wrong, but I think most people would agree with me, is that EOSIO is ripe for IBC and sharding and coexisting, right? Okay. We think of forks and sister chains and whatnot up until maybe the last year or so is more of a conflicting thing, ETH and ETH Classic, or Bitcoin and Satoshi Vision and Cash and whatnot, right? It was more of a screw you, I don't like you. No, we don't talk together. You don't even exist in my mind, right?
And we're now starting to see, a lot of the sister chains folding back into it, right?
Sadly, and just natural, kind of, everybody in their own camp having their own ideas, they had started to kind of get little siloed. And of course, not everybody was, incentivized to coexist. And, the system was kind of broken. But just like you're saying, I'm really excited on many different fronts. I call it riding of the ship, right? It's like the Titanic. It's not a speedboat. You're not going to turn it quickly, but if you don't turn it, we're probably going to hit an iceberg. But great news, if people are over there kind of pulling on it, and we put some effort and keep trying and trying to write the course, it's not too far gone. And I do think that we can all succeed in the EOSIO community if we can coexist much better, either benefiting from each other's technological or technical expertises, technology developed and, even respectfully credited, hey, this is a piece that was developed by TELOS. Right. All of us get the benefit from it, things like that, right? But EOSIO was really, remember Dan, 5 years ago, it's always stuck with me. Would you rather one chain with 1 million nodes or 1,000 chains with 1,000 nodes? And as a provider and understanding of the technical aspects of it, by far, 1,000 chains of 1,000 nodes, decentralized enough, and that's 1,000 times faster. More nodes does not mean it's faster. Matter of fact, It's actually slower in most cases. So EOSio was designed to, you take your code base, we'll maintain it, keep it going forward, and do your own system contracts and build your own stuff on top of it. But hey, guess what? We're all still EOSio. And if you at least come to an agreement of standards, you could potentially even really coexist. And he had even said, yes, IBC's coming, and we didn't get it. Now the community is going to do it, right? We've tried it a couple times and keep going forward because we all agreed that it's great feature. Don't isolate in one chain, make it native. Of course, EOSio is all the same chain, especially if it's like atomic assets or simple assets. It's more token based, but it's a win-win, easy. And then we don't have to fight each other. And like I say, your projects can do your own thing, right? Okay, have TELOS decide and you want to do governance? By all means, do governance like a champ over on TELOS, right? It's built into the chain. But, well, I mean, they've got their own financial rails. They've got their own NFTs. And like I say, by all means, support all that. Wouldn't it be cool if you could also take your NFT, port it over to Wax, sell it on Wax, or ETH, or Polygon, or any of those others, right? I mean, cohesion.
That's the hope, man. That's definitely the hope, and we'll see where things pan out. Any last words? I really enjoy you coming on, shedding your light and your expertise. A lot of people don't get to speak to the people behind the scenes that's helping this thing run. So it's great to have Michael from EOS.
Just happens, right? It just works, right? It never has any problems, so servers just run.
Yeah, right. Any last words?
Any project that needs help, like I say, I mean, if it's server, we're a blockchain service provider. We help consult, we help provide nodes, we help anything that we can. We're in the space, so by all means, reach out. We've got a forum on our website, or I'm on Telegram a lot. Happy to try to help, or even just kick ideas around. I got a lot of people that'll call me up and be like, yeah, I'll help you if I can, but I'm American, I can't even do that, or things like that. But always here to try to help people, because it's gonna be the next Bezos that has an idea of a store, or eBay or whatever. So, but I want to be able to help as many people as we can on that. Come from their garage.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Michael, thank you for joining us today on the Distributed Show. I'm your host, Jerry Rucker, and make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and share this video. Peace.